Welcome in, seeing Scarlet Red Raiders. We are so stoked for the interview that we have for y'all today. So I'm here joined with Shelby as always, and we have the head coach of Texas Tech softball, Craig Snider, in the house with us. We are so excited, and if y'all have been around seeing Scarlet for our entire existence, softball was one of our first programs to cover start to finish, and it's really cool to have this experience here with Craig, and we're so excited to talk to you about your experience and the program where it is now and where you see it going in the future. But y'all, Craig Snider it's him. Like what he has done with this program, if y'all have been following along, there's been a lot of really exciting news, or a lot of exciting advancements for this program, and it's hard to believe that we could have anybody better leading that charge with Craig Snider. He joined this program in 2022, and his resume is chef's kiss, is how the professionals say. We're talking with programs of Texas A&M, Florida State, Oklahoma. The really important keystone players in the world of softball in this country is part of Craig's experience. So without further ado, Craig Snider, welcome to Seeing Scarlet. We are so excited that you're here, and thank you for coming to talk with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys. That introduction was legit. Wow, I don't know if I can follow that up, but thank you. Thank you all for having me on. I tell you, Sibby and Shelby, you guys have done a phenomenal job of covering, our women's athletics and what they do and what they bring. And I think I thank you guys for what you do for all of our programs, and it's pretty cool to see. And yeah, and it was really awesome last year to have you guys in the stands and tweeting things. I mean, I love the interaction. So thank you all for what you do, and thanks for having me on today.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We just like to have fun with it, and Sibby said that, and that's probably true. Softball probably was the first program we covered start to finish.
Yeah,
we started in the middle of basketball season in January, so y'all have that. Y'all have our heart for that reason, and we're gonna talk about how much we love this team and all the vibes in a minute. But first, she mentioned your resume, the places you've been, but how did you get into coaching? How did this start for you?
Oh yeah, so. This is a crazy story. I actually started coaching college softball when I was 18 years old. I went to so I'm from Kentucky. I grew up on a farm in Kentucky, and I had an opportunity to go to Lindsey Wilson College. And we when I went there, they gave me an opportunity. Said, hey, you could do a work study program, and that's going to help you pay for your school, which most of it was covered academically. I still am not sure how that worked out, to be honest. Like, why
don't ask questions.
Hey,
yeah.
you know what? I'm like, yeah, sounds great to me. And they allowed me, so they gave me an option of women's basketball or women's softball. And they said, hey, you can come help out. And I'm like, well, basketball, I love the game, but the game doesn't love me. Dribbling is hard. Shooting is hard. Everything about it is hard for me. So I was like, let's go with the softball route, because I played baseball. I wasn't very good, but I love the game, right? And so I'm lucky enough to have a great mentor and head coach, and so I felt like I could maybe offer some insight. And so Tom Optenbrow was the head coach at Lindsey Wilson, and he gave me an opportunity to come out. And I kind of became kind of a student assistant with him, and we spent 2 years together doing that. And it kind of during that time, it was like, I don't know, is this what I want to do? Softball, that was 2001, not to date myself, kind of a long time ago. And so it was starting to really kind of grow. And I started to work some camps. And when I did that, I met a lot of different coaches. Well, then I met Mark Montgomery. Well, Mark Montgomery coached at Georgetown College, was one of our rivals. And then he took the head job down at Centenary College in Louisiana, which is a Division I program. So he calls me up and he's like, hey, why don't you come down, be our student assistant, work with our hitters, and we can, we'll help pay for school. I'm like, sure. Where is this
Say
again?
less.
Yeah, Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm like,
Free school? Let's go.
I don't know where that is. Sounds good. Sounds like so we packed up and I went down there, and so spent 2 years down there, and it was really cool, like, working with Coach Montgomery, because they were just Division I eligible. Well, we won the conference that year, and we got to go to postseason. And our first postseason appearances, it was the last time that the regionals were 8 teams, and so we got sent to Arizona, which was the number 1 seed. But that I'll never get that regional. It was like Arizona, Oklahoma, ULL, South
Oh
Carolina.
my.
And of course, we're little sitting there, like, oh my gosh! And I'll never forget it, like, because if you could like rank everybody in the tournament, right? Like, Arizona was number one. That was when they were number one in the country. It was Alicia
Yeah.
Hollowell, Taryn Mowat was like was their number two pitcher, autumn champion, Caitlin Lowe. I mean, Jackie Colburn. They had all of Christy Fox. They had all these great ball players, right? And we would have been 64 on that chart, right? And so we look up in the sixth inning, we're beating them 2-1. And I'll never forget this. This is like my favorite story. We're beating them 2-1, and one of our players. And again, back in that time, we didn't have like the quick cell phone cameras and stuff. It was the digital cameras, and she pulls out her camera, kind of takes a picture, and I'll never forget. Coach, hey, make sure I get a copy of that. And it was it's so funny. And they ended up walking us off in the seventh, but it was really cool because like that moment in time, like everybody around the country. So you're at the UCLA regional, the Baylor regional, LSU, and it's like Centenary 2, Arizona 1, and everybody's like, who? And so like you put them on the
That's
map.
what's
So
up.
I know, and so it was kind of cool. So that was our first year. In the second year, we won the conference again, which was awesome. And that was when they went to a 4-team regional. We got sent to Texas A&M, which kind of there's like, a little foreshadowing there, which was kind of cool. But so then so I did that for 2 years, and then it was time to maybe go into grad school. And I kept working camps, and Coach Gasso gave me an opportunity to be the GA at Oklahoma. So I spent some time there, and then after that was off to kind of do real people things. And so I had my first real job, I guess, aside from academics, was with Coach Gay McNutt from Stephen F. Austin. And we took over that program. And that program had not, so this was a crazy one. They hadn't been to the conference tournament in 17 years. Now, it was like, I think the numbers were 12 teams were in the conference and 10 of them went, and they hadn't been in 17 years.
That's wild.
That's tough. That's tough.
It's a long time of not doing well. And our first year, we not only made the tournament, but as the 4 seed, but we won it. We won it on a walk-off home run in the 8th, right? So crazy, right? So here we go to
Poetic.
postseason again. And we go back to Texas A&M. So I'm back at Texas A&M for postseason again. And so it was really cool. And so I spent 3 more years at Stephen F. Austin. And that's when, I got the call from Lonnie Alameda. And she had called and said, hey, we're looking for, some hitting coaches. Would you be interested? And of course, I'm like,
Excuse me.
at no point early in my career did I think that, one, I'd be playing in the World Series or coaching in the World Series, or when it was like, I'm just happy coaching. I enjoyed it. I loved it. And that's what I always wanted to make our players better. And I always wanted to make the big time where we were at, right? And so for me, like I would go work the camps at Florida State, and I'd drive 15 hours from Nacogdoches, Texas to go work at the camps. And, I know I spent more money in gas than what I made, but it was okay because I was bringing back a wealth of knowledge. And she gave me the opportunity. And then, gosh, we, 9 years there with Kocha and Travis, and it was 3 World Series appearances, a national championship, and that's when the opportunity came to go to Texas A&M, and tough move. It was like I was like, man, I just love what we're doing here, but it was also kind of one of those things like, hey, this is time to kind of let's spread the wings and let's do some things, and so spent some time there, and got to coach some really phenomenal hitters and Haley Lee, and a couple All-Americans, which was great, and then this happens, right? So Kirby calls, and I interview, do the things, and I'll never forget the coolest thing ever. So I'm going through that interview process, and personally, like for me, is like I don't know if I ever want to be a head coach, right? I really love the side of the ball that I was on. I love being a hitting coach. I love getting to do the things, But then this opportunity happened, and like, well, if I was going to do it, this would be a really great place. And so interviewing with everybody, it was great. I mean, I came out here and I joked the other day in a staff meeting. It was like, it was almost like a Navy SEAL training thing. It was like 2 days of like straight intense, like just, mental, like, you're like, oh my gosh, and just meet the person, next person, next person. And, but at the same time, I got to meet everybody that had a hand in our program, everybody that touched our program, everybody that was a part of our athletes' lives. And so I got to walk away from that feeling really comfortable about, what I wanted to do. And I'll never forget, Kirby called me on Father's Day and was like, hey, I got the best Father's Day gift I can give you. Like, we want you to be a Red Raider. And I'm like, guns up, let's go.
What?
Let's do it.
Let's
I know.
go.
So it was really like a really cool thing, and so I just the opportunity to be here now, and just feel like so grateful just to be sitting in this seat, and it's like head coach. It's like I mean I spent 2 years as a hitting coach. Like that's what I do. It's what I love, and so now it's a whole new ball game for me, which I've really enjoyed. So
Well, that's
that's
crazy
the long story of
that
how I got into softball.
I love
yeah,
it.
it all
The
started
redneck
like
from
as
Kentucky.
pick between basketball and softball. Like imagine
Hmm.
if you'd picked the other way. Like
Right.
life is wild. Life is
Yeah.
wild.
It would have
But
been completely different.
you just mentioned that meeting with Kirby and like what you said it was Navy SEALs type, whatever, all that stuff going on, boot camp style stuff, but what did you tell him that you're like, hey, this is where I want to be. This is why you should take a chance on me as a first year head coach. Like, what was your selling point to him? Do you think that he gave you that call and was like, yeah, you're our guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of things, but I think the big thing that what the program really longed for a long time was culture piece, right? And I really felt that, gosh, like the people that I had been around, like I think run the best like cultures, right? And everybody does it different, right? Like how Coach Gasso did it versus how Coach Evans did it and how Lonnie Alameda did it. All three are completely different. But all three have either, coached, played, or won a national championship. So there's a lot of merit to being who you are. And so I talked about the culture and where I wanted it to go and how I wanted to build it. And, that was important for us. And because I do think, and I say this, that I told it to them, I said it in my first press conference, it's like, we're going to grow the people first, and then the wins start to take care of themselves. Now, if you come out of the gate and you're just winning at this high rate, like that's great. Like you can do those things, but if you skip the culture piece, it's not sustainable. Like when the adversity hits, like it crumbles. And so we've seen that happen. It's like, no, we got to grow this from the ground up. It's a process, coachy word, but it's true. It's like it's going to take some time to grow this thing and get it going, right? And I know sometimes in our sporting world, like that's not what people want to hear from the fans. Like, oh, we want to win now. It's like we all want to do that, right? But there is a process to this. There is to build a culture, and so for me, that's if there was one big selling point, it's like we know how to do this culture wise. We know what we want to do. We know how to grow people, and that's going to be a big piece of this.
Oh my gosh. I feel like all of this is just what we hope to hear from our head coaches for teams that we love. So I commend you from that. And another thing that I'm noticing when you're talking about your experiences is when you refer to people, you're saying their first and last name. And I think to me that's showing how important these people are, is that people need to know exactly who they are. And hang tight with me here, but I'm seeing how with these experiences and how you're talking about these people that have made an impact on your life, when you think about your career so far, and maybe you weren't always wanting to be a head coach, but now you are, the head coach of Texas Tech softball, which had a historic year last year in your first season. Who do you think back on when you are thinking of your progress, or who are your mentors that you're, looking up to, or challenging you to be a better coach and to kind of rise above what you thought you were capable of in some ways, I think, and what you've said of, and being in this role. I'm so curious about that structure for you.
I think it's so hard like to pinpoint one person. Like
Oh yeah.
there's so many people like they're a piece of the pie, I think, of success and how people grow. I mean, but like the base of it is like my family, right? Like and my parents, like it's like they instilled things in you and discipline in you, and that or like they just kind of you carry with you the rest of your life. I'll never forget. They always told me, it's like, listen, like you may not be the smartest person, the most athletic person, or the best looking, which I argue that one, but yet at the same time, like you can be the most polite, right? You can be the most like generous and the most have the most empathy, and so I always kind of carried that with me. So I mean, for them, and then my brother, like he's like my biggest fan, and so like to have him in my back corner, like after every game, and like he's texting me, like, hey, good job, or wow, that was a really bad coaching decision. I'm like, yeah, fair enough, I get that.
He is your
so
brother. He can't be all good.
that's right.
Family
But I
keeps it
think
honest.
that's exactly right. And so, it's people like that, like in your progress as you go on, and then you start to meet people, right? Like you meet coaches and you work for coaches, and so everybody has a piece of that, right? Everybody has some, because there's situations that come up that it's very like you're okay, this is how Coach Evans did that, and I really like that. Or this is how Coach Alameda did that, and I really like that. Oh, I've seen this coach talk about this situation. And so I think I've always said, like, as coaches, like, we're professional thieves. Like, we just kind of take things from everybody, and you kind of mesh it into your own. Because I think what makes the head coaches the most successful is when they're their most authentic self. And so, and they're not trying to be somebody that they're not. And so, like, for me, I always kind of knew that coming into it. And so I think people along the way have done that. And now too, we've got people that are just in your corner now. And my fiance, she's phenomenal. And like, we talk the game all the time,
Cool.
and she'll tell me when I'm wrong, and then she'll tell me when I'm right, and we get to kind of bounce off each other. And so I think everybody plays a successful piece of that role, like, as you grow into this position, and so I wish you could say just one person, but I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of pieces of the pie that really come together to make a successful, pie, if you will.
It's like a really good pie.
Make a good
Yeah.
pie. I like that. You talked a bit about the culture piece, and that's something we loved about last year, is listening to the players say, this staff has allowed me to love softball again, which on one hand breaks your heart, but also, like, thank you. And you talked about what goes into that, and that you really put that, like, as step one in your program. So outside of that, like, that's obviously a big part of your vision for this program and where you want to go with it. What else do you see for Texas Tech softball as you grow this thing?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to hear those players talk about that and stuff. And again, that's compliments to our coaching staff. Like, they got to live it every day, right? They got to walk in and be a part of something that was bigger than them. They got to be part of a family. And I talk about this a lot, and it's, but it's like, we don't want to, like, talk about family. We just want to live it every day, so we live it. Like, we got dogs running around in here. We've got kids running around in here. I mean, we're dinner at grandma's on Sunday. That's what we
On
are.
the field,
On the
and
field,
dogs
like,
on the field, and games.
that's us,
True.
and I'll never forget when that happened. Pete, our director of office, he's like, "I am so sorry." I said, dude, it's okay. Like,
Great.
it's
Seems
part of
right.
it. Yeah, I mean,
Vibes.
it was my first dog delay of my career, which was a great one. So, um, but I don't know. I mean, I think, I think when you put the right people in place, like, it allows those things to start to develop, right? And so, the one thing we're always going to hang our hat on is our people, right? That's what we're going to do. And so we'll never skip out on culture and people and being a great teammate. And that's just something that we're always going to do. We're going to preach that. We're going to live that. And that's the end of the day. Because, again, I really strongly feel like when you attack those things and you have those things, success starts to take care of itself, right? You start winning games. You're doing things that people don't realize, because you're generally invested in the people. And when you do that, man, good things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we have talked to, multiple athletes with the show, and a lot of them have talked about the reasons why they were here or came to Tech was because of the people. And people listening that went to Tech, or you're from Lubbock, you understand how true of a statement that is. And Craig, you definitely fit right into that culture piece of not only Texas Tech, but the larger community, I think, of Lubbock. And we've been lucky enough to interview previous players from last seasons, like Peyton and Paige. And we think of these student athletes and their personalities just being amazing, just beautiful, bright, energetic personalities, and thinking that they're all under your wing. Coach, what is it like being the coach of these these women that are involved with your program, and they all have these really different personalities? And I'm just curious, what is it like being the head coach of all of those people at one time?
Yeah, it's pressure for sure. I mean, because you want to give everybody what they need, and a lot of it, and that means that there's not enough hours in the day to do that, right? And so, which is like a balance, right? Because you got to have that time at the field balance and the home balance, but also be able to have that, like, hey, I'm in your back corner when you need me type, balance. And so it is, but it's also been really incredible because, gosh, they just embraced, like, our players embraced us when we came in. I think they wanted something more, and we were here just to say, listen, guess what? Like, we don't care what's going. Like, we are here for you. we are here for the program. We're here for you. We want to make you the best version of you. And so it's rewarding, right? I mean, I look at last year's senior class, and senior day, you're like, oh my gosh, like that went by so fast. And then I look at this year, we've got 10 seniors this year, and I'm like, wait, that's a lot of people to be able to say bye to, or say, I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Who approved this?
Yeah.
That
What's
video
going
y'all
on?
did last year was heart-wrenching. So you're going to do that
Oh,
with 10 of them?
I know.
I need to just have a warning so I can avoid social
Yeah,
media
you need
that
a
day.
Yeah,
You
content
can-
warning.
when we start to unveil some videos, just have the tissues ready. It'll be good.
Yeah,
But,
cool.
but it's I don't know. I love these players, and I love what they've allowed us to really try to instill in the program. And so it's been really special. So, it comes with the pressure of like, okay, I want to make sure we do the best things for them, but that's also a privilege, right? Like it's a privilege to have that opportunity. It's a privilege to have that pressure that you can impact someone's life like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get back to the team here in a second, but let's
yeah.
let's ask some softball questions for the listeners. You're kind of known as a hitting guru. You talked about that a little
Kinda.
bit earlier. Just kinda. That's kind of what you do.
Casual.
Without giving away your secret sauce, if you don't want to give it away, what is that? What philosophy is it that you use that works so well, and you can come into these programs? And you talked about a lot of programs you've been to that had instant success and turnarounds, and you saw that with Texas Tech last year. Breaking the home run record in your first season with players that not necessarily were hitting home runs. The season prior were having career conference leading years in that category. Like, what is your philosophy that works so well, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it continues to evolve, but there is like one thing we're trying to really instill in our athletes when we get here is like, hey, it doesn't matter to a certain degree like what the swing really looks like. Like, we're going to work some mechanical things, we're going to do some things, but gosh, if you can swing at the right pitch and you can have some good plate discipline, hey, guess what? Good things can happen.
Gonna work out. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can learn how to hit the pitch that the pitcher really didn't mean to throw, and not be so wrapped up in like the one that goes over the plate about right here, beautiful. Like, and it's been interesting. We saw and again, walking into last year, like, we knew there were some kids that had some really, really good potential, right? But potential is always a tough word, right? Because it's like, well, I see things, but like, it hasn't been proven yet in their careers. So is it a thing? Is it not? I believe it is, but what's that look like? And then to see them start having success, and it had nothing to do with really about, changing a swing or doing it. It wasn't that. It was like, hey, let's be smarter about what we're doing. Let's move a little bit better. Let's swing at the right pitches, and let's see what happens. And so to see that happen was really cool.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
I know. Sometimes
It
that's
really
the best
is.
way.
Kind of just keep it simple, right? I mean, and I think more of what we really work on with our hitters is anything ends up becoming more about timing issues or just posture issues. I mean, if we can get those things right, good things can happen for sure. And so, but I think that's the tactical side. But the other thing is like, hey, being in their back corner and letting them know, like, hey, it's okay to fail. You're gonna fail. Like, you're gonna strike out. That's part of it. But like, let's fail forward. Let's process that and let's learn from it and move forward. And so, we really try to instill that in our hitters a lot.
What has been fascinating, and I don't know if you know this, but I have been learning a lot of the sport of softball. I've always loved it, and I played it in high school, but coming to y'all's games last season, it was really cool to see in person and have Shelby doing this podcast of learning more about the sport itself. And a big thing that we've talked about, and some of your past players have talked about, is the mental game of this. So when we're talking about hitting, and I can imagine the feelings that go into that when it's a high pressure situation and all the different things. But how do you have those conversations with your players to prepare them for such a game inside the game of this mental battle? I mean, I again, not going into the secret sauce of it, but what have you seen that goes over well with your players when they're in those really tough situations, maybe in the game or outside of the game itself?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've always seems to have more success is just being real with them, right? Like, knowing that you're going to go face an All-American pitcher today, and guess what? probably going to strike out a few times today, and that's okay.
okay.
Right? Because it may just take one or two swings and you get them, right? And so, that piece of just being real, going, all right, guys, all right, so
She's really good out there.
so let's understand today. Here's what we're trying to neutralize. Here's what we're trying to attack. Here's what we're trying to do. And if we can have each one of you just get it right one time, oh my gosh, how good could we be?
That's all you need.
And I think it's sometimes I always kind of say hitting coaches sometimes are their dealers in hope, right? Like you give them hope. Like it's not like okay, we're screwed today. It's like no, there's hope because if we do these things, like think about what could happen, right? And so I think the mental side of that is just understanding that like being real with them can be the best thing you can be, and when they struggle, being there for them, not if but when, because it's going to happen. It's hitting, right? It's up and down. It's hard. It's not easy, right? And so when you can have that piece and understand that, hey, failure is going to be part of this, and I've got you. We're good, and let's work on this. I think that helps a lot. So I hope what our hitters always feel is that they've got somebody in their corner that they can go to, like to really kind of help them get through the hard times, because that's the mark of a good hitter, right? Anybody can be great when you're great, right? When it's easy, man, it's going. It's the hitters that when they start to struggle is like making sure they don't dip too far, right? Because the last thing you want to have is this, and so if we can have that hitter that kind of rides this wave a lot less, then that makes a bigger impact, and you have a bigger impact on a program.
Love it. Riding that wave.
Yeah, baseball and softball are weird sports in the sense that you fail more than you succeed. Like, I mean, you can fail 7 out of 10 times and be a Hall of Famer in this sport.
Correct.
Correct. So yeah, the mental side of sports, both on the mound and hitting, is really intriguing to me in baseball and softball, and always has been. So you got to be really loose in that way. So I like what you just said there. That makes a lot of sense as to why they responded the way they did last year. It's like, hey, this is gonna be tough, but just get one of these and you're doing well. That's the truth.
And what not a better opportunity to do it against some of the best, right? Like, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I get to go face this pitcher. I get to go face. Pressures are privilege. Go down there and fight. Let's go. Let's battle. Right?
Let's battle. Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the other side, this year you have a new pitching coach, and please correct me on the pronunciation, but is it Bryce Tekulve?
That's it. That's it. Good job.
All right, Tekulve. We got.
So he's coming in over from Florida State as well, a younger guy, just like sounds like you started early as well. What have you seen from him so far in the fall, but also in these preseason practices, that he's been able to bring in a new philosophy or energy to this pitching staff as we're trying to grow on that side? So maybe we don't need to score 15 runs, although that's fun, but maybe we don't need to do that this year. Let's do both. That he's working with this really talented group of players there on the mound.
Yeah, no, he's done a phenomenal job, and to me, he's coming from the best developer of pitchers and the best pitch caller in the nation, and Lonnie Alameda. And I think when you look at her pedigree of people she's worked with and pitchers, she develops at the highest rate of anybody I've ever seen. And so development's key, right? Development's key, and then the management of that is key, because offenses continue to change. The days of us just jogging one pitcher out and just mowing people down, like those are few far in between. It happens, but it's at a lower rate than it's ever been. And so you have to understand how to, one, develop at a high rate, but also like how to manage a staff and when to put it in and what, and really dive into the video, right? And understand like, hey, against these hitters, we want to do this. Hey, defense, we're going to move this way. Hey, against these hitters, we're going to do this. And you know what? She's a great matchup for this side of the lineup, and this person's a great matchup for this side of the lineup, because that's how you really start to develop a staff. And what Bryce he's done such a great job of that. And I've seen these arms already starting to develop. We faced live yesterday, and the hitting coach side of me was like, oh gosh. But then as the head coach side of me, pitching side, you're like, all right. Let's see what's getting better. I love this. This is a great piece, because at the end of the day, gosh, I mean, we can score all the runs we want, but pitching and defense are going to be the name of the game if you want to win at a high level. And so to see them really develop in that, and to see their faces light up has been really cool. To see them enjoying their process, to see them having fun, and to see them really loving what they're able to accomplish now has been really fun to see. And so he's been a phenomenal addition, just a great job, and just excited to see us continue to grow in that aspect.
So it sounds like you already have seen this growth with Bryce, and knowing we have some new minds to help shape what this program is going to be like. And I can't help but to think of you're already working on your next step in like the next chapter, and I want to make sure that we all collectively like revisit this last season. And I know we've already talked about it a few times, but with this podcast, it was such a historic season for a variety of reasons, and we've talked a little bit about it in terms of like hitting and the records we broke there, both with category leaders and individual players, but as a team. Coach, when you think about last season, it is your inaugural season as a head coach, and all the success that it came with. What are the top memories that you're like really proud of from last season that almost helped propel where you're wanting to see this program go and feed into that energy that is, where you go, success follows. And yeah, I just want to know from your perspective what you're really proud of from last season.
Gosh, I mean, there was so many cool moments, and I think
know it really was.
like from the very first win to Sage Hoover throwing a no hitter the first weekend, and breaking the home run record, breaking the doubles record, slugging, and all the things, and taking down some ranked opponents, and doing those things on the road, and like I think my biggest takeaway though was just the buy-in of what we brought, because I think that's always the hard part, right? I think years ago when you were coaching, you would say, "Hey, we're doing this," and athletes across the world are like, "Okay, sounds good, coach." But athletes are more informed now, right? Like they have the technology to know how to perform a skill, right? Or if it's hit a rise ball, or feel like there's plenty of information out there. But what they need is assurance, and they need coaches for to help them kind of sift through some of that stuff. And so it's always a challenge, like because you have to really, you can't just walk in and go, "Hey, we've done these things, let's go." And so we didn't approach it. It's like, no, let's earn the trust. Let's earn trust, and let's go to battle. And it was really cool because that team just bought into everything. And I mean, just the walk-off home runs and things. I mean, just there were so many fun things that
Oh my gosh.
we look back and laugh and have a good time. I mean, it was so many funny moments too, and funny things that we did. And I don't know. It's always hard to pick like a favorite moment, but that team as a whole will always have a special place in my heart because of what they did and the things they were able to accomplish in year one, and really set the standard and set the tone for the program moving forward. And we talked the other day just about leaving a legacy, and I want these players to come back 20 years from now and go, I did that. I was a part of that. I was a part of us getting this thing moving to where it is now. It's a national contender. It's a World Series contender. It's a national champion. Like I was a part of the people that got that off the ground. So I don't know. I don't know. It's like it's again so many good moments to really kind of reflect on. But as a whole, though, just super proud of everybody that was involved with last year and how well they did.
Yeah, it was a perfect, I think when I hear the term work hard, play hard, that I see y'all's team, and we saw it in terms of like record breaking and things like that. But I love how you're talking about the culture. It's very clear that that's important for you. And, I'd be remiss if we don't talk about this, but the tumbleweed contest, those who don't know, if for some reason you love Texas Tech and you've never been to Lubbock, but we got some tumbleweeds and they're pretty big in Lubbock. And last year, Craig, you got to tell us a little bit more about the story of where this started. But it seems like the players will go and collect the biggest tumbleweed they can find, and there's a trophy. It's this whole thing, but it buys into that, like, yeah, we're gonna have fun and do this really unique thing, but we're also gonna go yard and hit home runs and have walk-offs and things like that. So can you tell us more about the tumbleweed contest?
Yeah.
Who started it? Where did it come from? Tell us everything.
Well, I mean, I always kind of tell people it's interesting because it kind of just started as we're just going to have some fun, right? And then it became something a lot bigger than that, which is kind of where we're at now, which is amazing. But I always tell people, like, if you're not from Texas, right? Like, if you're not from the state of Texas, like you assume that the whole state is cowboys and tumbleweeds and ranches and cows and things, right? And riding horses and 95% of the state is not that. It's not.
Yeah.
It is. 95% of the state is it's Metroplex, whatever, all the things, right? Well, Lubbock is that. That is
Love
us.
it. Yeah.
That is us, right? We are
This
a blue
is
collar.
Texas Tech.
This
That's
is
us,
us.
like blue collar farming, ranching community that loves the
Yep.
Red Raiders, right? And I identify that with so much because I love that piece. I
Yeah.
love that and growing up on a farm, like it just fits me, right?
That's
So
right.
so I always was kind of intrigued by the tumbleweeds when I moved out here. I'm like, oh wow, those are really cool. So we just decided to have a competition last year who could bring in the biggest tumbleweed. And then we went to Hobby
Yeah.
Lobby, and our assistant, Morgan Clayman, bought this like kind of like vase looking thing, and then like this little ball that went on top. It looked like a tumbleweed. And we spray painted it all gold, and that was the trophy, right? Well, we talked about this year too, like so a tumbleweed. So the history of the tumbleweed. So as we're kind of
Oh,
having fun, let's
yes.
bring in some
Okay.
history of this, right? So the
Yes.
actual history of the tumbleweed, it's not native to the Americas. It came from Russia in the 1850s. So what happened? They were shipping a shipment of flaxseed over to South Dakota. In that flaxseed was what they call the Russian thistle. Somehow those seeds got intertwined, and that is what a tumbleweed is. It's a Russian thistle, and it grows really well in areas of like where there's not grass or it's more dry and desolate. And
Yeah.
so all
Check,
through
check.
the Dakotas in the west. So here these things come, and so we talk, then we you think about a lifespan of tumbleweed. It grows for a year or two, right? It does. It grows these fruitful, gets this big thing, right? And then it dies, right? It dies. It breaks off the stem, and then it takes off. But what makes it so invasive as a species is that it spreads seeds. And when it starts rolling, it's spreading seeds everywhere.
Oh
So you
my
think about that
gosh.
from a like a program standpoint. We talked about with our kids. I'm like, think about the
Do it.
impact you can make after you're gone from the program, right? And so we think about that tumbleweed. It's like what we're doing right now. You're growing your tumbleweed right now, and then at some point, your days are going to be over. Like your
Oh,
time here at Texas Tech is going to be over, and then can you leave a legacy that continues on for so long? And so it kind of became that, and then so you win the trophy, right? And the trophy, if you get it. So last year, Katie Wyckoff won the first trophy, right? She
That
wins it.
tracks.
that tracks.
She wins it, and so, but then what has to happen is like when you win the trophy, then you have to give a speech, right? And it's
Okay.
like an interview, right? So like because we expect you to have success in your career, we expect you to be interviewed by the media. So we're going to
That's
talk about
right.
those and what things you should say, shouldn't say, okay? And then the coolest part of this is, which is my favorite part, is every week now it gets passed out again. So the person that won it the first week will then pass it out to somebody else the following week. And it's words of affirmation like, hey, I
Ooh.
saw her doing this. Or you know what? This really represents our core value of empathy. Or we saw her do this and we know she's been struggling. We think that she is deserving of the Tumbleweed Trophy. So it gets passed around throughout the team all year. And at the end of the year, we have a recipient. It's for the overall Tumbleweed Trophy winner that just really represents our core values, the culture we're trying to grow and everything else. And like that's kind of like the ultimate prize, right? It's like the thing that you
Yeah.
can control. And last year Madeline Saban was the recipient of that, and so we're going to continue that tradition. And so as it started off as something fun, it became something much bigger than just that. It
Yes.
really tied into our culture. So that is the tumbleweed. In fact, probably coming out in the next, probably today. Have you all seen the Zach Galifianakis Between the Ferns?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. Are you gonna do between the
We're doing a
tumbleweeds?
Between the Tumbleweeds kind of spin-off on that, and it actually might come out today. So,
Like a
I
which
love
coaching
that.
show, like a weekly thing.
yeah, we'll see weekly, maybe by monthly, we'll see. But
I
I don't
love
want to. I don't want to
this.
mention his name, but fans really loved a certain coach for a different sport that is no longer here. They did that fire
yeah.
talk thing that they did back
Yeah.
in the day. So I'm here for it.
A little different. Yeah. That's
fun.
awesome.
so that's the
Uh,
story
I
of
mean,
Tumbleweed.
I mean, it's such a cool thing to know that you're helping like these students learn more about like your human experiences, and that you can use softball, you can use a tumbleweed, you can use really anything to help like process challenges and how to get through it. And so I love it. I think that's such a poetic way to turn something silly into something that's really, really important. And that's what I think softball brings, is that
Yes.
really fun, unique atmosphere. And so for people that haven't been to a softball game, you might go and you might see a rock dangling from a string Dwayne the Rock, that it's part of softball culture in a way, I think, is just how fun it can be, but how impactful it can be. And I played softball when I was younger, and I could even sense then how unique that atmosphere was like. And given how much you've been involved with the sport, how much have you seen, I mean, you briefly talked about it, but how much have you seen softball grow? And of course, we're in this age with college and NIL. So if you want to talk about that component as well, I know that's a whole other can of worms that we could talk about, I'm sure, for hours. But could you tell us a little bit from your perspective of just how you've seen the game grow and where you maybe see it going? Like, predict the future, please, Coach Snider, and figure it all out for us. But
Well,
no,
5
yeah,
national championships.
I can predict that. That's my prediction every year. But tell us, like the evolution of the game. What's your perspective on it?
You know, I think back to 2001 when I started coaching, right? And you know, we were dragging the field with a Jeep Cherokee and a piece of like a chain link fence. You know?
A Jeep
And
Cherokee?
Oh yeah, I was
You
in the
got a
back,
whole
and
car?
and coach was driving, and I'm holding it in the back, and I mean, you do what you need
OSHA.
to do. Yeah. Oh yeah, there was
man.
there was
Been
some
there.
problems there, but
We had to make it work. Yeah.
yeah, we did do what you had to do. We needed to do it. But I think, you know, you look at what this sport has done, and let's just talk about it on a national level. Like
Do it.
let this sink in. Like, we're now the number 3 most watched collegiate sport in the nation. Football, men's basketball, and then women's softball.
Let's
That's
go.
the order right
These are
now.
facts.
And that is where our sport is. Like, people want more and more and more of our game because it's a phenomenal game. It's a quick game. There's a lot of things, and to see our athletes do some of the things they can do and on this national stage is absolutely incredible. I mean, we continue to sell out tickets to the World Series every year now, and to the point where they had to renovate and add more, and now they're talking about having to do more because, you know, 15 wasn't enough. Now can we get 20? Can we get 30? How many can we get into the stadium now? And it's growing on a national level. It's growing on a world level. Like, it continues to grow. And you know, I've been lucky enough twice now in the last 4 years. I've been over to Bulgaria to help get their softball started on their Olympic side. And so it's just like, and they're watching what's growing on, you know, in the USA, and like, okay, we want to try to do this. How do we do this? How do we grow this? And so it's a great sport, you know, and it continues to grow and it continues to get better. And so it's hard to argue with these numbers on TV now. I mean, this coming year, there will be over 1,000 games televised on the ESPN app, you know, ESPN, all the streaming devices. Over 1,000. So every night you could turn on softball and watch softball. How cool is that? You know,
Cool.
It is.
and before, and it used to be with a white ball and, you know, no lights and dragging, you know, a Jeep Cherokee in chain link. So to see what it has is incredible.
Shelby
wild.
and I have talked about that before. We were like, what were we doing before, you know, this accessibility of being able to
ESPN
watch
Plus.
all of y'all's games? But it's been so nice. Like, I know there's still a lot of challenges, but that has been such a treat to be able to watch almost every single one of y'all's games.
What
so,
a great
yeah,
point too, right? For recruits, it's such a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
For sure. Speaking of recruits, we'll throw out the thing. Number 2 recruiting class ranked
Casual
2024.
Craig.
I don't know that was hyped up as much as it should have been amongst Texas Tech fans. There's a lot going on when that came out, but I was like, excuse me, second year really in number 2 recruiting class. Some really exciting players coming next year, right? This class that you have coming in this year is not too shabby either. They were up there as well last year, even in your first one, but give the fans a little insight into some players on this team that people should be watching this upcoming year, both on the freshman side that they haven't seen, but even some returners.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I think, gosh, like I said, we've got 10 seniors this year, and it's been really cool to see them develop like into the ball players they are, you know. So to see their process from beginning till now, I mean, I look at the Riley Loves and the Abby Oryx and the Alana Barras, Ariana Villas, you know, and Kennedy Kreitz, and I mean, just doing a lot of great things. But I'm also people like, you know, Chassie Rains and Carson Amijo. I mean, just doing some really amazing things for us right now and continuing to grow. And so, you know, I that class is everybody's going to contribute. Everybody. there's not one senior that won't see significant playing time this year. And I get really excited about that, And then you start to look at some of the freshmen that came in, the Reagan Jennings and McKenna Mitchells and, Ella Hills and Mimi Blackledge, I get excited. And then, Kayla Madrid, like some really good ball players that are coming to the forefront right now. And I'm excited for that. Like, I'm excited to see them really perform and do some things. And, it's funny. You never know who's going to be the one to step up, right? You never know who's going to be the one, but yeah, to see some of the things they're doing right now in the cages, to see some of the things they're doing in BP, I get kind of fired up a little bit, and we've got players that are hitting balls harder than they ever have in their in their careers at a high rate, and being able to repeat that. And so and that's, I think that at the end of the day, that's the name of the game, right? If you can hit it hard, then the good things are going to happen. And so we're seeing a lot of that out of our freshmen, but also just returners as well.
Yeah,
one of the cool stories last year is we all know the accolades she got at the end of the year with Kaylee Wyckoff, freshman of the year, and something we say on this show is she was freshman of the year in the Big 12 in a world where Oklahoma exists.
Yes.
Point period. But a cool story about her is, she was playing SFA or something along those lines, and then goes to the fall, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard it was an adjustment period, and then she comes out like crazy. And what is it like when you see that kind of click for a player like her, and then to have the freshman season she had, and I'm sure we're about to see it again from someone else in a different way as well.
Yeah, that it's incredible, right? And she's what a phenomenal ball player, but even better human too, which it always seems to go hand in hand too, which is always great. But she her freshman fall, she struggled, and sometimes I think as a coach, like you kind of, it's not that you want to see that, but it's also kind of a good thing sometimes, because you start to figure out this is how we deal with failure, because it's gonna happen. It's coming. Failure is coming. So like how we deal with it is everything. And she got that fall to really kind of step back, take a deep breath, and process things, and then continue to work. And wow, what she did last spring was nothing short of incredible. And I knew she was athletic. I knew she could play, and I knew she was going to be good. And to see her to really take the bull by the horns and those awards and things is so merited. And what a great ball player and great teammate for us. And I'm excited for her this year. And we've had a lot of conversations about processing success, right? Because that's the next piece of this. So you've seen people that have these big time successes, but they don't process that right? And they don't process it properly. And so you can see them try to replicate what they did. And it's not about replicating what you did. It's about being present about what you're doing right now and really falling in love with that process. And when you do that, man, good things are going to happen. So she's got a good head on her shoulders, though. So I'm looking forward to seeing her, get after it again this year.
Yeah, sounds like they're in good hands, and it's also something that was clicking for me when you were talking about your answer is the quarantine period that we had and the pandemic, and it's 2024, so we're kind of in a weird spot of that kind of being behind us in some ways, but presenting, I'm sure, a lot of unique challenges when it comes to things like that. So I just wanted to make a note about that, of the adaptability of the players and how they've been able to find their fit. And it seems like this program, the players that are on the team are clicking in a really beautiful way, and we're so excited for the next season. And before we get into, we have some very passionate listeners that are excited to ask you some questions, Craig, so we'll get to those here in a minute, but those are kind of all over the place. And I want to give you one more opportunity just to kind of close this chapter of how much we've been talking to you today. But is there anything that you would really hope that all Red Raiders know, either about you or the program, that maybe they won't be able to read from a box score or take from your press conferences, either about the season that we have upcoming, or about you as a coach? Like, what is something that you hope all Red Raiders know?
Yeah, that we welcome our people, right? We want our fans there, and we're accessible. I think that's the cool thing. What makes softball so special is that, we're going to have a fan day. I think it's February 4th, and so invite everybody out, like, hey, come out and hang out with us, like, come meet the players, because I think it's sometimes so easy as a fan to sit back and judge the players, but when you really get to meet them and be a part of their process, like, that's so cool. And so we continue to grow this thing, and we're going to do some great things this year, and we want people to be on board with that, because it's coming. It's definitely coming. And not only the near future, but the future, the more future as well. So it's like I get excited about that, and I don't know. I mean, I think anything else, it's like, hey, this is a good group. It's a good group of people, coaches and players. Like they're a lot of fun. Every day at practice is a riot. I mean, it's a good time.
To say the least, I'm sure.
And so we try to give a little bit of insight
are
to every day.
unmatched in this sport. Speaking of the vibes, though, to segue into the listener questions, you got one from a former player that you may have seen already because it was on Twitter. That was the vibe queen, if you will, the creator, the owner of Dwayne The Rock, Old Paige Mindedal, if I say that right.
Yeah.
She has a question for you because she's up, grad student up at Oklahoma State now. For fans that aren't
we forgive
aware,
her.
we forgive her, but she's up there at the enemy school now, right? But she says, how do you feel about Eskimo Joe's cheese fries in April?
This seems like an inside joke.
No, Eskimo Joe's is a famous restaurant up there in Stillwater.
Yeah, it's a famous restaurant in Stillwater, and those cheese fries are phenomenal. They're phenomenal. So if you ever get a chance to eat their cheese fries, I would highly recommend it. I would say that we would have it pregame, but we're probably not going to do that. But we will get there at some point.
Good looking out, Coach.
We'll get that after the dub, Paige.
Yeah.
That's right.
What is it? What makes it so good though? Like, is it the fries? Is it the cheese? Is it?
Anytime you put cheese on
over the top,
it makes it amazing.
That's
right?
true.
That
is honestly true.
I think the fries themselves are actually pretty good too. But then you add cheese and it's amazing.
I know you could put cheese on anything and it'd be great. Our next question we have from Cody Rogers, and Cody talks about each generation of athletes seem to add an additional dimension and level of excellence to the sport, specifically with women athletes in softball. What would Coach Snider say are some of the strengths this generation of athletes brings to the sport, specifically the sport of softball? It's a great question, Cody.
Cody.
I think knowledge now. I think this generation of athletes comes in more knowledgeable. They understand how their body works, how their body moves more than any before, because we have technology that allows them to measure it now. So they come in knowing their attack angles, their launch angles, their exit velocities. Hey, I can do this, and this is what I look for in this. And so they come in with a ton of knowledge now. And so I think that's why we're seeing these athletes continue to develop and grow, and why we see the sport continue to grow is because we know more now, from the science side of things, the technology side. And so our athletes are more informed, right? They're training different than they ever have before. And so, and again, that becomes our job is when they get to our level now, is going able to filter that and going, that's a great piece of this. We're going to continue that, but also, hey, this is something we may not want to work on right now. Let's put that away. It's just, whatever fits your philosophy in your program. But I think it's the knowledge piece. I think they know how or what they need to do a lot more so than we did, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So,
yeah, it seems like it's changing day by day. And I just saw like another announcement for the changing of some of the rules for the 2024 season. So you're just constantly adapting. But it's really cool to see where a lot of this information is benefiting the athletes and making them better. So yeah, that's a great question. Great answer.
I think this one you might have answered throughout this interview, but we want to make sure it gets in there because we love when people ask y'all questions. So Kay Hairgrove Kravik, if I say your name right, apologies if not, says, as a former player, just what college softball, I am enjoying seeing the strides this program has taken under your guidance as a coach. She would like to know which side of the ball do you feel like you've made a bigger difference on? I feel like we might know that, but hey, maybe you have a surprise answer for us.
Well, first of all, we love alumni, and that's one thing. I love that we've had alumni reaching out, and we've definitely embraced our alumni and really trying to bring them back. Because we've got I think I was the 9th head coach in program history, and so there's a lot of different generations with different coaches and stuff. And for us, it's like, hey, we're all one big family. We're Red Raiders. Like, come back and support. Come back and see it. If you're here, you're the most important person in our building. So come back and see it. So I love that we've had alumni reach out. But I think to answer the question, that I do think the offensive side of things, we definitely made a big impact this year. And I think we'll continue to make a big impact. Breaking records the first year, that's tough. That's tough to top. But at the same time, hey, what
Yeah.
not? But I mean, in the end of the day, offensively, our goal is to score more runs, right? And so if that means that we're hitting more home runs, okay, then so be it. If that means we need to steal more bases this year, then so be it. If that means that we need to hit and run more, we need to situationally hit. I mean, every team has its different blueprint, and so. But I definitely think we've definitely. The offensive side, we've made a greater impact thus far, but I could see that changing this year, so stay tuned.
True. Yeah, absolutely. Such a fun ride to witness. So one of the last questions that we have from a listener, from Ryan, this is a great question too that I'm excited to learn about more, is with the upgrades to the facility, can you tell us what all has already happened? We've seen some confirmations, but where does it stand now, and what type of maybe facility upgrades can we look to maybe hope for in the future, and anything else that you can share?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. So, I walked in such a great situation when I took the job, because John and Tracy Sellers had donated $1 million to the softball program.
Cool.
And, we kind of allocated those funds at first to kind of cover the stadium. But, as we got to assess the field and everything else, I thought, like, we need to take care of the athletes first. We need to get our playing surface up to par, because it wasn't where it needed to be. So actually, this over the break, we turfed our outfield and skirted around the infield. It has a brand new look to it. It looks great. And then on top of that, right now we're still in the process. It's not done yet, but we're putting all brand new wall padding up around the field as well. And so it'll be a black
nice.
wall padding with white lettering, which will look really sharp. And
Yeah.
then what we have kind of left of that, we're going to kind of really tack some locker room stuff and do some things. But then the next capital project for us is going to be a covering over the stadium. We've got a lot of interest already that people want to jump in and help with that. And so we'll cover the stands and maybe extend the press box on either side, because what we'd like to love to add to that piece is a concession stand and bathrooms, and then maybe a suite, a booster suite, or just player fans of the game suite, whatever that is. Just kind of continue to give it more of that stadium feel, because gosh, we look up last year and we had 2 games, I think it was, or 3 games that we were sold out. And so it's like, wow, let's start really kind of diving into that piece, and let's enhance this fan experience even more. So so that's some stuff to come. This year you're definitely going to notice the turf straight away and the new wall padding when it's done. So it'll look really sharp.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. I'm still waiting for that lazy river in the outfield, but we can wait a couple of years on that. It's fine.
It's ready. It needs to rain a little bit more in Lubbock. And then once
okay.
Water is
You're asking
scarce
a lot. You're
out
asking
there.
a lot.
It's fair. I'm here for that. And we'll finish it off with this question. It's from a fan, but it's also one that we kind of like to finish off every interview with anyway, in a way. So it was a great question from them, but they just asked, what should we expect differently from this year's team compared to last? Yeah. And any similarities, if you want to throw those in as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're going to continue to get a great aggressive offense that's going to swing big, and they're going to try to really try to cause some damage. But I think the thing that I get excited about this year that could be a little bit different is I think we're going to play a better brand of softball, right? I think it's going to be a quicker, fast-paced, just crisp and better brand of softball, because I think sometimes we got a little loose last year, maybe a little sloppy, and and so like this year we really focused on, hey, let's play quick, let's play hard, let's take care of the ball, and I'm looking forward to that. So far this preseason we've looked sharp, we've taken care of the ball, we've done some things, and so I think we're going to see a better brand of that, and I think we're going to see a better management of that side on the defensive side too, and just being able to put our players in the right positions and pitch to those strengths. So I'm looking forward to that.
Love that.
Cool. That's I think a great ending for our time together, Craig. We have really appreciated your time, and for everybody listening, this is an exciting program. I know we are biased, but this is such a fun team to watch. They bring that energy, they bring the fun, they bring the competitiveness, and that starts for us soon. Coach Snider, y'all are heading back to a familiar place. Can you briefly tell us what you're looking forward to with y'all's competition at Florida State University here in a couple weeks?
Weeks, yeah, we're getting close. Yeah, it was kind of cool. they reached out, and I thought, what a cool opportunity because a lot of our staff have roots at Florida State, and but I think more than anything is obviously getting to see the people that have helped us grow and flourish in this sport, but also to play in that environment. I mean, the fans are great. It's a great environment.
Yeah.
They're going to be ranked number 3/4 in the nation when we roll into Tallahassee, and so there's going to be it's a good environment for our players to play in. Right off the bat. So looking forward to that, and then then we make our way over to Texas State. The goal this year was interesting because of the big senior class. I wanted to get, and most if not all, most are from Texas, right? Is I wanted to hit all the spots in Texas we could to get close to everybody's families, and so we go down to San Marcos for that year. So we kind of cover the Austin, San Antonio, Central Texas area. Then we'll go to Denton, Texas. So we'll be up in the North Texas area, North the Dallas, Fort Worth area, and then we end up playing a conference down in Houston towards the end of the season too. So we kind of hit the three big spots that I think is important for our players, recruiting, and everything else. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we jump. We have our tournament at home, and then we jump right into Big 12 play. So yeah, we hit the ground running. We've got 9 Big 12 series this year, and so it will be an absolute grind. But good. That's what we're after. That's what we're looking forward to.
Exactly. This interview to serve as a hype up because we're here. I mean, it's here, and the first time that y'all, we'll get to see the Red Raiders at home is March 1st. They said first of the month we're going to be there. So really, really exciting to, hang tight and watch the season. But it starts soon, and we can't wait to be along for the ride.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think all the questions that we had for you, Coach Snider. Again, we really, really appreciate you coming and talking to us. And we anticipated this before we even saw you and knew that we could talk to you for hours and hours. So really thrilled to know a little bit more about you and your philosophy and the culture that you're bringing to this program, because we agree with you. That's such a foundational piece that is crucial to the team's success. And if last year is any indication, you're doing things right. So we're proud of you too, Coach. As much as we are the player. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. But is there any last things that you want to share with our listeners today before we leave you?
No, come out and see us. Come see us.
Definitely.
Come out to the games. Come support this team. And these again, it's a great group of athletes and coaches. And again, the back and to the backbone of this program is our coaches and our assistant coaches, what they do. So make sure you say hi to them too, because they get after it every day, and just happy to get to work with them each day.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I
We
love
can do that.
y'all. Yeah, get out to the games. Softball, like he talked about earlier, is an
So
exciting game to watch, whether they're at home or catch the games. Most of them hopefully will be on ESPN Plus around the country. But we'll let y'all know about that, fans. Don't worry. Stay tuned to our social media. We'll always tell you where you can watch this team if they're on the road. But yeah, we appreciate you coming on, and we finish every interview with just a little classic, guns up, wreck 'em. So
Guns up, let's go.